Here's the truth about what it really costs to own a rental property and where smart investors save big. And this is coming from the last 10 years of experience of buying over 1,000 buy-to-let properties for myself and investors. Most people think that they can't afford a buy-to-let, or they jump in without understanding the true cost and then wonder why their cash flow disappears. In this video, I'll break it all down. So what does it really cost to buy a buy-to-let? What does it cost to keep one running? And where can you save money without cutting corners? Whether you're new to investing or already planning your first deal, this is the stuff that no one tells you. So let's jump straight in. Buying a buy-to-let isn't just about the deposit. Most people assume that, you buy a 100 grand property, put 25% deposit in, that's it, all good, right? But there's way more to it than that. And here's what you actually need from a cash point of view for buying the property. First of all, you need a deposit. Typically, that's going to be a 25% deposit. For example, if you're buying 120 to 150 grand property, that's going to be 30 to 37.5. Stamp duty. The bane of our life as investors. I am really sorry, but you pay a 3% excess on top of everyone else out there, all right? So, for example, on a £100,000 property, you're going to end up paying around £5,000. Well, you are going to pay 5% on that. So, really important on that to pull away from this for a second. When you're working out your stamp duty, if you go on the stamp duty calculator on the government website or money, whatever it is that you're doing, make sure you put it as an investment property. And if they don't have investment property as an option, put it as you are buying your second property. Even if you don't own a property, it counts as a second property or an investment property. Most people get that wrong and think it's just 3%. It's not. Next is legal fees, your solicitors and your searches. You'll typically be between $1,200 and $1,800. This is going to depend on the company, their location. Searches and other things are known as disbursements. So you'll have the cost of the solicitor, which might be $1,200, for example. But remember, you've got disbursements, charges that aren't in their control. For example, searches on the property, which is like making sure there's no radon in the area, making sure it's not a mining location. Next is mortgage broker. We pay £500 for our mortgage broker. They also get a proc fee, a procurement fee from the lenders, which is very typical. And by the way, I really like paying them. You can get brokers out there that don't charge an upfront fee, but I don't like favors in business. I think it's a really bad way of doing business. If I've paid you for something, I want you to deliver on it. All right? That is something that's really important. So £500 is what we pay there. Then you've got survey and valuation costs, typically around £500. Basic val is £300, and then it depends on the level. Most lenders will allow you to put this against a debt, which we typically do. So you pay that. Refurbishment budget is next, and this is going to completely depend, isn't it? If it's a little bit of a tart-up, like a little lick of paint, some carpets, it's going to be a few grand, up to 30, 40, 50,000. It really depends on an area. So for example, in my area, I could do a full strip out and refurbishment for about £30,000. Whereas in London, in Kensington, the kitchen's going to cost you 30 grand. So it really is area dependent. That one's a bit more difficult. But in general, when I'm doing like a bit of a turnkey, boring vanilla buy-to-let property, I don't really want to be spending anything more than 15k, I would say. Keep it light and simple. Top tip on that, always have contingency, always have a bit of a buffer, all right? So anything, say for example, somebody says it's going to cost 15 grand, I might go, that's brilliant, that's what I'm going to do my numbers on that, but I'm also going to factor in a couple of grand just in case. Okay, so that's the purchase cost, and obviously if you're using somebody to do all of the work for you, whatever fees that they've got in. So now we've covered all of the purchase costs, we need to think about the running costs. So rental income is amazing. How much money are we getting in? And often people just go, well, I'm renting it out for £800 a month. My mortgage is £300 a month. I'm making £500 a month profit. Not really. So let's break down the monthly costs that you need to be factoring in. First of all, you have interest-only mortgages. And the reason I say that is almost all the time with a buy-to-let or an investment property, it's going to be interest-only. What does that mean in simple terms? If I borrow 100 grand, and I've got 5% interest, that's 5% per year, obviously, £5,000, I will pay that off every year. and I still owe £100,000. Whereas if it was a repayment, I might pay £7,000 a year. And so year one, I've paid £5,000 in interest plus £2,000. And then next year I owe £98,000 and I still pay £7,000. But now it might be £2,100 paying down the capital and the £4,900 paying the interest. Make sense? Now, why are buy-to-lets mostly interest only? Well, because we want them to be cash flow positive and they're investment properties. The bank doesn't need to rely on you paying off the mortgage by the time you retire because there is no retirement from the investment. So they know it can get facilitated continuously with a new tenant. And from your point of view, you don't really care because inflation is eroding the value of that debt. And of course, inflation's working in your favor because the asset value is going up. Not the video for it, but hopefully I've explained that in enough detail so you understand it. So then there's letting agency fees. The most typical is 10% plus VAT. So for example, if we're looking at a £650 rent, that's going to be £78 a month, which is 12% of the 650. VAT in the UK is 20%. So 10% plus that 20% VAT brings it up to 12%. Then you've got buildings and landlord insurance. Typically 20, 30 quid a month. Usually it's paid annually, but it works out as around that. Then of course, maintenance and repairs. In general, if you've got a decent tenant and decent quality property, you don't need to factor in too much. But even if you said 5%, that's still a few £100s a year that I would be separating just to cover the minor issues that come up. You know, like when a tenant does leave eventually, because it's rare somebody's going to stay in a rental forever, it's important to know that there are going to be some little scuffs on the wall. Maybe there is a bit of carpet, especially near the door that needs replacing. Maybe there is going to be the occasional void period where a tenant's not in there, and so we've got it marketed. So you really want to factor in those things. Is it a big deal? No, but I always like to expect the unexpected. Sometimes you get some bad luck and it's in your first 6 months, but more than likely it's a few years down the line. So from all of that, we've not gone, oh, we're making 650, paying 150, therefore we're making 500. You're going to end up making about 250 on a monthly basis. So is that changing your life? No, but it's cash flow. And that's just from one property. And as the value goes up, you could buy another. Hopefully, how you made your money, you're still making money, so you can invest that and build up this portfolio. But it's not just the cash flow that's really exciting about these boring vanilla buy-to-lets. Supply and demand. In the UK, we have a massive shortage in property, and a huge demand, by the way. Right now, as at the point of filming this, we have around 1.5 million unit housing shortage in the UK. What the fuck? That's 1.5 million people looking for a property that doesn't exist. When demand is here and supply is here, what do you think happens to prices over the long term? If in doubt, zoom out. I'm not looking at all these little differences going on in the economy. I'm focusing on the long term. That is what's going to make you a millionaire. And here's where smart investors save money. They buy properties in more affordable regions. And look, I'm not saying go to a mining village in the northeast or anything like that, because there is a limit, because those 50 grand properties, they're 50 grand for a reason. They'll always be 50 grand. But what makes a good investment isn't what it used to be. People used to talk about the north and south divide. And if you look at the prices down south versus the prices up north, the north is way cheaper, but you'll notice the acceleration of the prices up north. It actually is way faster than down south. Why is that? Well, there's loads of different conditions, but the really big one that I want to talk about is the nature of the internet, COVID, and now remote working. Okay, COVID with the internet forced people to work from home, and then companies realized that actually, on the whole, the lack of productivity versus the cost of an office outweighed. And actually, a great test here. If you can leave a comment, let me know if you now work from home or hybrid now versus before COVID. And I guarantee there'll be some comments around this. So please, please, please engage with this. Really important. And that is why, if you work in central London, you no longer need to live in central London. And why would you? The quality of life is getting worse. Crime is getting worse. I'm not slagging it off. I do miss London a little bit. But the prices are astronomical. Like, it's ridiculous. I was actually visiting a friend in London in Canary Wharf the other day, and he's paying £2,500 a month rent. And it's a one-bed flat, and it's nice, but not that nice. 2.5 grand in Leeds, like genuinely, you could rent a 5-bedroom detached house easily in Leeds for that. And when you start thinking that, you go, yeah, I might do that instead. So because of that remote nature, prices are going up. There's more money up here. Channel 4's up here. All of those sort of things. So back to the video. Let's head to refurbs. You want to keep this really simple. I'll give you some common mistakes, but really you want to touch up the right areas that's going to have an impact, not do a full refurbishment. And I want to give you a couple of tips. Number one, damp. If you are buying a vacant property, or you're buying a property that is tenanted and they're utilizing the property in a certain way, expect some moisture or damp. And the problem isn't the damp, it's what caused the damp in the first place. And a lot of people go into property go, there's damp, therefore we need to chip away all of the plaster, put damp proofing all around, replaster it, repaint it, and etc. Instead of going, the reason that this is caused is the way that the tenants live in. Or, there's the brickwork outside needs repointing, there's moisture that's got through. And actually, you're better fixing the causation of it, getting a dehumidifier in, and having a longer term solution to it. Which, by the way, to fix some basic damp proofing could cost £7,000 or it could cost £1,000. Think about how you're going to approach it. Causation, not the outcome. Tip number 2. You don't need to do a full refurb to increase the excitement around the property. Typically, bathrooms and the kitchen are where you can have the biggest impact. Next, you want to use buy-to-let brokers. A big mistake that I see is people just using their solicitor that sold their mum's house 20 years ago and a mortgage broker that says they can get on it. They do everything from residential to buy-to-let to commercial. If they try to do everything, they're not doing anything, all right? You want a good specialist broker. A good specialist solicitor is going to make all the best decisions for you. And by the way, if you want to just make this easy, you can just use my team. If you want to use my team to build your portfolio, just put portfolio in the comments. I'll send you a link. You can book in a call and we'll do everything for you. And this is exactly why people like working with portfolio builders, and we like doing it. Like, honestly, I like doing the hard work. We've built up over 100 in our personal portfolio. We're getting closer to 200 that I personally own in my businesses. And we like doing it for people like you. It's running the numbers, managing the refurb. Believe it or not, even the compliance and legal processes. Yes, that's a weird thing to geek on. I found out the other day there's 650 pieces of compliance in lettings. That's too much even for me. I'll leave that to my team. But the reason that I love this is because we get to handle these investments every single day. We know how to streamline the costs. We know the little hacks, the tips, the techniques that you just don't see day to day. And it allows us just to speed this process up. And being open, like people ask, well, why do you build portfolios for other people? Because it allows us that leverage. Imagine using solicitors, but you're doing 20 properties a month, 20 mortgage broker exchanges a month, 20 sets of refurbishment. We're able to hone the skill, get better prices than anyone else, and demand the level of service that most people won't. So, let me just break down an example property. So this is a 3-bedroom property in Bentley in Doncaster, and here's what the property looks like on paper right now. Purchase price 85 grand, 90,000 is what it's actually worth, renting out for £700 a month. So then we've got mortgage at 5% interest is £265 a month. Then you've got the lettings and operating costs. Typically just take 20% to cover your management and your fixing up your maintenance on there. So that's 140 a month. So we're now at £405 coming off of that 700. So we're still at around £300 cash flow. And then what we really want to do is allow that 50 to 75 for some voids as well. So we're clearing just over £250 on a monthly basis interest, and that is net cash flow, £3,000 a year for that £85,000 investment. And you have to bear in mind that that is £3,000 a year from around a £45,000 investment, which is absolutely staggering when you think about it. It's not just about the rental income, and that's something I really want to reinforce. Why did we buy that particular property? If you go on Rightmove in the locations up north, you can find loads of properties at that price, and yet we didn't buy any of them. Why is that? Like, people don't really think about this sort of thing. If it were that easy, why can't I just go on Rightmove and buy it myself? Because it's not the price that's the reason that we bought it. It's the area, it's the economics, the macro and the micro. It's the cash flow and the capital growth. Remember I said about that housing shortage in the UK of 1.5 million. Does that mean that every area has more demand than there is supply? No. And by the way, it's not just the area. For example, just go buy in Doncaster, right? No. It's not even the areas of Doncaster, Bentley. No. It's these streets. And sometimes it's that side of the street, not that one. And if you're new to property, you might find that insane. How can it possibly be that a property on that side of the road is worth more than that? It's real. The real power is combined returns that we're looking at. It's the income with long-term capital growth, all without having to manage the day-to-day headaches. And that is absolutely key. I like to call them boring, vanilla buy-to-let properties. Okay, boring vanilla buy-to-lets. And the reason I like calling them boring vanilla buy-to-lets is that when I've put in the effort to buy them, I don't want to think about it again. I want to hand over it. I want to see my income coming in every single month, making money whilst I sleep. And that's it. I can't remember who said this, but if you can't figure out how to make money whilst you sleep, you'll end up working every day of your life. And it's really important not just to focus on that one property, but imagine over the next 5 to 10 years, you buy 5 to 10 properties, making £5,000 a month passive income, building real financial freedom. So, can you afford a buy-to-let? Maybe not tomorrow, but knowing these numbers means you can plan properly. In general, if you want to build a portfolio in the best investment areas in the UK, you're going to need around £50,000 per property. That's going to be your deposit, your fees, your broker, your solicitor, your refurb, everything in. Now, it might vary a little bit. It might be 49, it might be 56. But in general, if you can get around that 50k mark, 55k, if you really want to hit that sweet spot, you're going to be able to buy some of the best investments and make some really shrewd investments for you and your family. And when you're ready and you don't want to stress of doing it all yourself, I'm more than happy to help you out. And it's actually what we do as a business. We help people scale their portfolio. So you keep 100% of the portfolio with none of the downsides and all of the upsides. And that's my company, Aspire Portfolio. We do all the heavy lifting, finding the opportunity, negotiating on your behalf. You use our solicitor, our broker, our refurb team, our management team. We did over 196 transactions last year, and not one of them has an investor been involved with. It's completely hands-free. And that's what we want, because people are busy. Like you, you're working hard. You're probably watching this in the evening after another hard day at work. If you want to have all of the benefits and none of the downsides of owning and building, scaling your successful buy-to-let portfolio, book in a call, completely free, no obligation, by the way. Portfolio in the comments, I'll put a link, I'll send you the link personally to you. Book in your free call and just see if we can actually help you this year and beyond create financial freedom for yourself and your family. I hope this has been valuable for you. If you're new to the channel, and even if you're a repeat viewer, only 50% of you are subscribed right now, and it's time to change that stat. Hit subscribe and the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video.